Hey guys, I am super excited to have you back here on my channel. And if this is your first time here on the channel, you are welcome to BLO'S Closet. In today's video, I am going to be sharing with us how to cut a circular flare sleeve. This is going to be a 3-step flare sleeve, and I am going to be sharing with us a method that would give you a very nice result, if not the best result. So if you're interested in learning how to do this, keep on watching and let us get straight into this tutorial. For this project, I am going to be making use of this beautiful Ghanaian print that I am in love with. It is called the Kente fabric. To know the volume of fabric to cut out so that you don't waste much fabric, you're going to be working with your sleeve length. So my sleeve length is 12 inches plus 1 inch for seam allowance at the top and bottom. So I have 13 inches and this is on fold, okay? So if I open this up, I am going to be having 26 inches right here. And for this other length, I have the same 26 inches. So basically, if your sleeve length is 12 inches plus your 1 inch seam allowance, you're just going to multiply that by 2. So you just cut out 26 inches by 26 inches. So that's like a square of 26 inches. I hope this is clear. Because I want to cut out 2 sleeves at once, one for the right and one for the left, I have 2 pieces of fabric laid out here. And this is the first step that I am cutting out, and this first step is the longest, which actually carries your actual sleeve measurements. So now I am going to be folding this my fabric again. All right, you know, I folded it once and I had 13 inches, and now I am folding the other 26 inches into 2. So right now I have a square of 13 inches by 13 inches all round. So I'm just going to use this piece of paper to explain. This is me folding it in once and folding it in again. So now I have 13 inches by 13 inches, basically a square of 13 inches by 13 inches. And now if I open this up, you're going to see that I have my folded edge right here, and I am going to be placing my tape at this very edge right here in between this my folded edge. I hope this is clear. Okay, if you have any questions, please drop it in the comment section. Now I am going to be placing my 13 inches at that very tip, and I am going to start making a mark. So I'm going to be marking 13 inches all around, and I'm going to make sure that that 13 inches stays at the tip of this my fabric. I hope this makes sense to us. All right, so I'm just going to keep marking it until I get to the other end. And now I'm just going to use my chalk to make this more visible, and after this I am going to be cutting this out. After cutting, this is me making a notch at the center. You see that tip right there, that's the center. But please do not make a notch. I made a mistake. Just use your chalk to make a mark right there, because I ended up having a hole in the middle where I was supposed to make my stitch. Okay, so I'll be explaining this later on. So this is what I have. My full circle is ready, 2 for each sleeves. So now we'll proceed and cut the second step. And this is the piece of fabric that I have for my second step. Okay, I have 2 pieces, one for both sides. I am essentially going to be repeating the same process for this second step. The main difference is in the length. For the length of this my second step, I'm going to be subtracting 3 inches from what I have from the first step. So the first step is 13 inches in total minus 3 inches. I have 10 inches on fold, and when I open it up it's 20 inches by 20 inches. Okay, so I hope this is clear. You can go ahead to subtract how many inches you want. It is dependent on what you want. So now I am going to be folding this again, just like I did for the first step, and now I have a square of about 10 inches by 10 inches. I am going to be placing my tape on this tip right here in between my folded edges, and I'm going to start marking that 10 inches all around. Okay, the first step was 13 inches and the second step is going to be 10 inches. All right, so I'm going to mark this all the way around, and after marking this all around, I'll cut it out just like I did for the first step. And do not forget to make your mark at the center. Please use a chalk to make your mark. Like I said, if you make a notch, you're going to have a hole where you're supposed to be stitching this down. That is what happened to me. I ended up doing some maneuvering and some technical work to get rid of that. So please make a mark with your chalk. So for the last step, this is the third step, which is going to be the smallest. I am going to be subtracting 3 inches from what I have from the second step. So I now have 7 inches on fold, which is 14 inches by 14 inches. So I have a square of 14 inches by 14 inches when I open this up. All right, so I'm going to fold this in once and then fold it in again the second time, and now I have a square of 7 inches. So I am basically going to repeat what I did for the other steps. I'm going to place my tape at the tip, at that 7 inches at the very tip, and I'm going to be marking the 7 inches all around, after which I am going to cut it out, and then I'll make a mark at the middle. All right, and here guys, I am done with the last step. So this is my first step and this is my second step. I'm going to place it on top like this, and this is my last step. Okay, so 1 2 3, and the distance between these fleas is 3 inches. So I'm going to bring the smallest one, which is my last step, or you can call it your first step depending on how you count it. I am going to be dividing my circle into 4 equal halves, and I'll start by ruling out a vertical line here at the center, and then I'll rule out another horizontal line at the center like this. When I folded this my fabric to cut out my flea, it left a crease line for me, so that line is what I followed to mark out this line. So now I have 4 equal parts of this circle, and I am going to be creating my hole for my armhole. I'm not going to be creating this hole in the center, but rather I'm going to be creating it on either one of these lines. But before I do this, I am going to bring my dress and I'll measure out what I have around the armhole, and for me I have about 8.5 inches multiplied by 2, and that is 17 inches. Now I'm going to be creating a circle of about 17 inches, and I'm going to be using this calculation. The radius of a circle is about 6.28 inches, and this is the standard radius that is used most times when we are working with circles. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to be dividing my armhole measurements by this 6.28 inches. So this is what I'm writing: my armhole divided by 6.28. My armhole measurement is 17 inches divided by this 6.28, and I'm going to have about 2.70700000. Okay, so I'm going to round this figure down to 2.7, and because there's nothing like 2.7 on my measuring tape, I'm going to approximate it to 2.75 inches, and this is what I am going to be using to create my circle. Is this clear? Any questions? Leave it in the comment section. So as you can see, I have 4 lines. I'm sorry that the lines are a little bit faint. You can choose any of these lines to work with. They are all equal. Any of these lines that you work with is going to give you the same result. So I'm going to be using this line here, and I'm going to place my tape at the center and mark that 2.75 inches that we got. All right, so from this point now, I am going to start creating a circle of 2.75 inches. So I'm going to be placing the tip of my tape at that mark that I made, and I'm going to start marking 2.75 inches all around. So as you're moving around, make sure you keep your tape at that mark that we made. All right, so I'm going to do this until I complete my circle, and I'm just going to go ahead and make this mark visible. I'm sorry guys, my camera was lagging. I don't know what is wrong with my camera, and I didn't realize it. So this is me trying to make the line a little bit more visible. So this is what I have, guys. Can you see that this part is smaller compared to the other part? So this is the part that is going to sit under the armhole. So this is me marking about half an inch away from my initial circle for seam allowance. So make sure you mark this out, and now I am going to just grab this pinch it so that I can have a hole to put my scissors through, and I am going to cut this out. So I'm cutting out the second circle that I made for my seam allowance, and after cutting everything out, this is what I have. I'll repeat the same steps for the other steps and layers of this my sleeves. So this is the second step. I am aligning everything together, right sides facing each other, and I'm going to rule out those 2 lines that I ruled out earlier in the first one to divide my sleeve into 4 equal halves. Now from the center where I made down my mark, I am going to come down by that 2.75 inches, and from that mark I am going to be marking 2.75 inches to create a circle for my armhole. And also add your seam allowance of 1/2 inch. That's drawing another circle that is 1/2 inch away from the initial circle. And then I'll be cutting this out. So it's basically the same process. This is the same thing I'm going to be doing for the third layer of the sleeve. Right here I am done with this second layer, and this is the third layer, and this is me ruling out these lines that I ruled out for the first and second, and I'm marking 2.7 inches from the center, and from there I'll mark my 2.7 inches round to create my circle. So in case you're working with more than 3 layers or 3 steps, just repeat the same process and you should be fine. So after doing this, my third layer is ready, and I cut out lining pieces for each and every one of them. Can you see my first step, my second step, and my third step? So this is it, guys. I also added fusible interface, and I added thick stay to each of them to stabilize this fabric. And I am just going to bring the smallest piece, that's my first step or your third step depending on how you're counting. I'm going to put the lining on top, align it very well, and I'll take it to my sewing machine and stitch all around using 1/2 inch. I'll do the same thing for the remaining ones, and this is what I have. I went ahead to notch this, and I also made an under stitch. Okay, I pushed my seam allowance towards the lining piece, and I made a top stitch on the lining piece to create my under stitch. What this under stitch does is that it helps your lining to stay in place when you turn it over to the right side. It won't be peeking through to the right side. So turning it over, this is what I have. I've not even ironed it out yet, and as you can see, the lining is staying in place obediently. So right here I've gone ahead to iron out all my pieces, and this is what I have. So I'm going to overlay them on top of each other like this, take it to my sewing machine, and I'll make a stitch around just to hold it in place. And this is what I have. All right, and I also did it for the other pair of sleeve, and this is what I have. And finally, I am going to be attaching this to the armhole of my dress. So I'm going to pin it all around, right sides facing each other, and this is what I have. If you do yours properly, you should have something that looks like this or even better than this. And we have come to the end of this tutorial, you guys. If you found this video helpful at all, give this video a like so that more people can get to see it. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please hit that subscribe button for me. Share this video with your friends, turn on your post notification bell so that you'll be updated whenever I post new tutorials. And I'll see you in my next video, guys. Bye.